All right, Eddie, welcome to Mission Mentor. This is your first time on this. Are you ready for the heat? I'm Blaine Walters. Barbara Walters couldn't make it today, but I'm gonna make you cry. I hope you're ready.
Okay.
I'm very excited for this. Somebody's talking, and that's the computer talking to you. A Sega, yeah, exactly.
White noise.
All right, are you ready, Eddie?
I'm the one waiting for the question, so you tell me.
All right, my first question. Coming up in the next few weeks, you're gonna interview Gary V.
Uh-huh.
I want to start with this question because I know this means a lot to you. So I was wondering if you could talk about, what are you going to ask him? What are some insight? Can you give us an insight into what you're going to talk to him about and what this means for you?
I mean, for me personally, it means a lot, but I mean, in those situations, you know, the key to public speaking is really being worried more about the audience and the content. And since it's real estate agents, a lot of them don't know how to brand themselves. So a lot of my questions are going to be based more on what are some of his branding techniques? And what's funny is I didn't know you were going to ask this question, but his book that I think is phenomenal sits right here that I've read about really building your brand on social media. And so it's going to be more based in that, on how can he give some real life examples? What are some easy ways for them to start consistently branding it? You know, I may ask him what led him to his thought process of $1.80. And for those that don't know it, he believes that you should give out between posts and comments. You really want to grow your brand or grow a culture, 90 posts, which, I mean, I do a lot, like comments a day, but I don't do 90. I ain't going to live. I ain't going to lie. You know, I may do, 60 cents a day, but give your 2 cents 90 times for $1.80. So I'll probably talk a little bit about that and really try to get the audience engaged.
Oh, we have a baby talking over you. Yeah. I'm excited for you. So I know I get to go and be there with you when you do it. So I'm excited I know this, I remember, when it was all announced and you were so excited. So I was like, that's where I want to start.
I mean, it's really cool. I'm a big fan of Gary Vee. I think his story is phenomenal. Not only what he's done, getting here 3 years old, but just how he took his dad's business and then what he's done overall. I don't doubt it. I think Mark will be very happy because one day he's determined to own the Jets. And when that happens, they'll definitely get a lot better.
Mark, do you have a
I do. I mean, that's the big problem with the Jets is that the ownership is terrible.
No, that's why I say is they'll get really good when he buys them. And make no mistake, he plans on buying them. He'll find a way.
I may like football again if that
happens. Does anybody have a question? I have a ton. I don't want to be the only one asking questions today, so I just want to know.
Yeah, but warm it up. Throw out at least a few, then get the crowd involved. What, are you nervous, dude? Are you sure that you're interviewing me, not vice versa?
You can interview me if you want, but no, this is about you. So I want to know, Reese, I feel like I have such a different, I can't think of the right word, but, I see you every day. I get to talk to you every day, and recently you just have just been impressing me every time I turn around, right? You're in my head. I tell you this all the time. I hear you. I got a text this morning, everybody at 5 a.m. that said, don't be mediocrity today. And then I went to the gym and guess who was there? It was freaking Eddy. And he pushes me and he pushes everybody. And I love that about Eddy. But recently you had somebody you've known for a long time leave the company, right? And you left and and I saw you live your virtues.
Yeah. And
I just walked away from that experience feeling like I saw that you walked the talk and
Sure.
you don't just talk it. And so can you talk a little bit about what it means to live your virtues and how you do it and how you put your ego aside? This is a deep question, but I also think this is one that you can answer, right? How you put your ego aside to.
Well, first of all, I do believe if you don't know how to hang up your ego, you're going to have a lot of challenges in life. So since I'm a believer of self-improving every day, just a little bit, I'll tell everybody, once you hang up your ego, you can accomplish a lot. So that one's actually kind of easy. I think it's good to understand your ego and understand egos, but I think hanging them up just allows you for more opportunity to learn And since I'm a big fan of the Cliftons, like we talked about, the number 3 in me is learner. So a lot of my challenges I've ever overcome is just from learning and actually implementing it and taking action on it. That's just a lot of my wiring. And, living it, there's just no point, in not doing it. And what I mean by that is they wanted to go on, they wanted to take a risk, they want to do something in their career. You're supposed to support them. As crazy as it sounds, they say that now the average, even though I want people to stay here as long as they're more than welcome to stay here or they want to stay here, the average person is only going to work somewhere from 3 to 5 years. Opportunity, they move, they want to take a different path in their career, they want to try something fresh. That's normal. So you got to really look at when you're leading people, and not I'm talking about the grand scheme of things. And look, we're very fortunate. A lot of the execs and a lot of the leadership here stayed here a pretty long time, but people may only stay 3-5 years. And so it's more like college football. You always got to be recruiting and you always got to be thinking of that mindset of adapting and evolving. So if somebody wants to try something new, what's the point of really destroying them or feeling upset about it? If they had the courage to come talk to you and say their truth and what they wanted accomplished, then you should honor it. I mean, it's really about paying that level of respect. Some people hear me talk about, it's one of the talks I had today with Jason. I was asking him some questions in our one-on-one on why is that so important? And he explained it to me. And then I said, what makes buy-in so important? And it's one of those processes when you lead people, you got to ask a lot of questions and not give the answer. We're so natural to try to give the answer, but that's not how you get somebody to elevate. He didn't get there, but he got close. And even though people may disagree with you, the reason buy-in is so important is because you let them be heard and you show them respect, which I always say is the ultimate love. And that's basically the same thing that you're doing is you got to let people feel heard and respected. And you get what I call your ROR, return on respect. It has to deal with honor. That has to deal with show the way. You just got to live it. It's real easy to talk. Talk's cheap as shit. And you got to live it. That's the only way you can actually say you do it. I mean, because if not, you're just talking and you can talk a lot of crap.
See, that's what I loved about it is the that you didn't just didn't talk the talk, you showed the way, right? You literally led the way and you were like, I'm so happy. And it was just really awesome to watch you in that moment be who you say you are. And at the same time, though, you can imagine, right? You're Eddy, you're the CEO, right? There's, so you can come off a bit intimidating just for being that CEO, right? And
if you say so.
Right. So how do you handle that? How do you handle when people say that you're intimidating or
I'm not going to lie, it does bother me, but not in a mad kind of way. I do consider myself pretty open-minded. I am very transparent. I just think that it's more about myself having to put myself out there more and be more virtuous and be more open. Of course, that means I can't answer every question, especially it's funny. A lot of execs were going through a FLC training, which is conscious leadership, which is really about being authentic and intentional. And today I've been going through my emails and not only unsubscribing to the gazillion things, but also putting things in certain folders because I do need my time to be maximized. So a lot of times it's not that I don't want to spend time with people. It's just I've got a lot of lives at stake. And also there's thousands of customers we close every month that do depend on my ultimate clarity. And I've got to do the best that I can because my true belief in the mission here of empowering people more, I can't do it if I get caught up in every little thing. I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm going to be creating a folder that if somebody CCs me on something, I'm not going to see it. It's not to be mean. It's just, I like email to an extent, but I think sometimes at times it's used as a little bit of a CYA tattletale system. And that's not really going to live what I believe a culture should be lived like. That's why there is leadership. There is a culture. There are people that can talk up and do things and take action. I don't need to be aware of every little detail. That's just not really my nature, because then if you believe that system, you're running more of a cult, not a culture where you got to have different leaders step up and things like that.
So I'm going to ask a question. They're getting a lot in the chats now. So some are coming directly to me. I'm going to assume they want those to be anonymous. So I am going to read these questions and then have you answer them, right? So this one says, tell us a little bit more about unlearning to relearn. Can you explain to those that may not understand what this means, what unlearning to learn means?
So I hate to tell everybody this, but there's a lot of things that we've been learned and that we've been taught that don't really work anymore. And, I do believe that the greatest intelligence system is now going to be the workplace. And there's a big difference between education and intelligence. A lot of people like to say that some people are smart. This is something they got to unlearn. Smart is truly what you're born with. That's your IQ. But really what you do with what you're born with is your intelligence. There's a lot of people that you would be surprised. Henry Ford was the first one that proved this and even won a lawsuit against it when they tried to say he was of average knowledge, but he knew everything that had to do with the car. He didn't know certain things, but he also said, I've got a board that I can hit a button and get every answer. And then somebody said, that's not intelligence. No, that's the ultimate intelligence. That means you're willing to hang up your ego.
It happened.
So you got hit with the bullhorn. That goes to show you that you can bring people together and you can really collaborate. That's the ultimate sign of intelligence, realizing that you don't have all the answers, and that the term that gets attacked a lot of days now is like self-made. A lot of times when people say self-made, this is something that's got to be learned. It does not mean that they thought that they did it by themselves. Actually, quite the contrary. They'll be the first ones to compliment a lot of people. But what they did is they believed in themselves first. And if you don't believe in yourself first, it doesn't really matter if anybody else believes in you. It doesn't even matter right now if you don't believe in yourself all the way. You're going to have some challenges. And what I mean by unlearning is there's a lot of things that made sense till the financial crash. Every major crisis changes certain behaviors. That one was monumental because that's essentially like the Great Depression for all our ages, where it doesn't matter if you work for an organization that does very well. If they're treating people bad, people don't want to be part of a moral hazard. And treating people bad is not just the employees. It's also their vendors. It's also the people they do business with. It's also their partners. It can't be a moral hazard. And just because you're profitable doesn't mean you're running a good enterprise and you're socially responsible. And I think a lot of that social responsibility is about growing people, developing people, getting people to engage in leadership, because we're leaders everywhere. A parent, you're a leader. A friend, you're a leader. We all, what transcends, that's all a part of life, is a leadership culture. And you got to be a part of that. And you got to be willing to know that you don't know everything, and that what matters today may not matter shit 10 years from now. And I think that's what a lot of unlearning needs to be done. Now, the great thing is there's a lot of fabulous unlearning that can be done in this generation, because as crazy as it sounds, for the most developed country, which America is, we're also the youngest. 52% of people were born in 1981 or later. That means there's a lot of opportunity to really change the narrative. There's still too much of the old guard, as I call it, the old way of thinking that's trying to preserve. When you've got new challenges in a new guard, you got new thinking you got to do. And the only way to do that is to really bring people to the table.
You hinted at parenting as leadership, right? I love your take on this. So can you talk about how your parenting and your leadership go hand in hand? I don't want to talk about your family, but just how your style of parenting.
I think you got to ask a lot of questions. That's the best way to show that you're interested in somebody. It's really easy to talk at people, not on purpose. We're just programmed that way. I think Janine Driver taught me something that I think is very valuable: to be interested, not interesting. It's better to ask people questions to get to know themselves. Got to do that with your kids. It's kind of like today. Son was a little rough this morning. What was bothering him? I knew something was bothering him. It took a lot of questions, and it was kind of brutal and painful. I'm not going to sit here and lie, but at the end, it's that he wanted to go to Six Flags with his friends because he felt like getting cut off from electronics weekly, because, he has been diagnosed with a low level, and I don't mean diagnosed like it's cancer. I hate that type of term, so I should use it. So, he's got a little bit of ADD, and the electronics really mess with him. So it's really about understanding regimens, and I've got a little bit of myself. He got it from me. And it's really about regimens. That's why I'm not really as disciplined as people think, but I stick to my regimens because they work. Because if not, I'll go in another place. But it took a lot of questions. It took embracing a lot of conflict to finally get to. He wanted to go to Six Flags on Sunday with all his friends, and he was wondering if I could take him. That's why he was acting a little grouchy. I get it, dude. And that's a lot like leadership. You got to have guardrails. But you got to understand that the guardrails are to prevent you from falling completely off. Doesn't mean you don't hit them every once in a while. Doesn't mean you don't zigzag through. Just got to, it's kind of like my father used to say, sometimes you got to let people run into a wall with their head, just not enough that it hurts, but enough that they learned why it hurt and how it hurt, instead of being detrimental.
Awesome. I have some more questions. This one asks, if somebody wanted to start a business today, what would be your advice to them besides money backing?
You got to follow your passion. You have to. It doesn't matter what business you're in. And it doesn't have to be exactly like a certain passion, but there's got to be a way about it, something that makes you want to get up every day. Because then you don't feel like you're working. You just feel like you're training and you're getting better all day and you're elevating people. Therefore, that's a whole lot easier to get inspired and keep going every day. That's what I'd tell you there.
Next question. What advice do you have for new people that are joining EPM that don't have a mortgage background like me? What did you tell me?
I mean, not having a mortgage background is not a bad thing, guys. It's not at all, because you don't have bad habits. And there's a whole lot of bad habits in this industry. And it's just because, like I said, after the financial crash, not a whole lot of people entered it brand new for a long, long time. Ask questions, get to know people, get mentored. That's what I'd tell you. It's okay to say you don't know something. I'll be the first one to tell you that I don't know something, because what I think a lot of people are scared of, they become yes people. This is something they got to understand. You saying yes, you can do something, and no, you can't. All you're doing is sabotaging both people. Sometimes you have to say no. And that doesn't mean it has to be the word no. It could be say, I don't know. And I think that's very powerful. I think that's what people will respect. Because guess what? You'll be able to get the answer real quickly, or you'll bring somebody in that can. I actually think that shows strength, not weakness. That's something that's got to be unlearned in this world, because guess what? Because of this phone, you can call bullshit out on people real fast nowadays. You know, this has a higher IQ than the highest IQs. I think that's something that's got to be unlearned. Having a mega IQ used to matter when you were basically a human computer. Now you actually have that access. Right. So it's really knowing about how to have know-how and use it.
I'm just going to pile through these. What is your pet peeve? Say
which is my biggest, or
yeah.
Wow. Oh man, there's about 3 things I'm having to lean into just to learn more from it.
Can I answer for you for the first one? The cords in the office.
Oh, the Walmart look. No, that's not a pet peeve.
Why do you got to bring me into this for? I don't understand.
I mean, it's only taken 8 years, like the hedging app. That's for you, Phil.
I've been here for a year and a half.
I mean, I think it's more of entitlement based. It's just feeling like you're better than somebody, feeling like you're owed something. You know, we're all given, especially if you're born in this country, you're in this country, you're given what I call the American gift, which is an opportunity. A gift it's not really the American dream, because a dream is still a dream till it's realized. If you're here versus so many other billions of people all over the world, you got it pretty good, as crazy as that sounds. I'm not going to sit here and say that America doesn't have her challenges, but it's really what you make of it. So I think, you know, that entitlement is that victim mentality. It's all entitlement. You feel like you're owed something. And I'm going to tell you, it's real easy to solve that. Is just by working on yourself and just getting a little bit better every day. You'll eventually float out of that. So, but I'm leaning into that to ask questions and learn more from it. I used to cut that out, and that's not good either, because you don't learn that way either.
So many questions coming through. What is the most important part of leadership to you?
There's a lot.
Castillo.
So the most important part of leadership is understanding that the people that you lead directly have given you the permission to make them uncomfortable for their benefit, for their growth, because the only way you grow is to enter your opportunity zone, which comes after comfort, which is also sometimes you avoid it. So it's pain. And I think sometimes people don't realize something that needs to be unlearned is pain is actually good for you, because you cannot grow, you cannot improve without some sort of pain. It does not mean, too many times people think of pain, they think of, you know, torn Achilles or emotional. Pain is anytime you've got to do and exert more energy than what is the minimum requirement, which is what your brain wants you to do to keep you safe. But it's been a long time since we're worried about tigers having to come after us and things like that. So I would say that it's really understanding that your duty and oath as a leader, the responsibility, because that's what it is. It's an oath of responsibility, is to unlock the best in other people by making them uncomfortable, by challenging them in a very positive manner to grow, to learn, to get better, and to bring more people to the table. Just sometimes people have a hard time with that. They feel like they're letting them down because they've been told that that is micromanagement. No, micromanagement is the intent that you don't trust. This actually means you trust them. You're just providing them support. So it's a lot like fear and respect. They look similar, but they're vastly different because of the intention.
What is your 350 party? Can you talk about the intention behind the 350 BA party? That's a good segue.
I think a lot of organizations stifle their growth, stunt their growth because they don't celebrate the hits that do not become hits. Having played baseball for a long time, I can't tell you how many times a teammate before me would hit the ball really good, but it was an out. That's life. Didn't mean that they're a bad person. Too many times, another unlearning, they think you're going to go, 10 for 10. Dude, no. If you go 3.5 for 10, and that's why I think, baseball is such a barometer for life, because some people say it's a game of failure. It's not. It actually allows you to fail so that you can succeed. It actually teaches you.
The truth is, girl, it's okay because we'll just stay there.
Who is that you got to mute? So it just is really the intentionality to understand that to help your teammates help everything out, you got to bring ideas to the table. Sometimes they won't good. That's fine. We're going to celebrate those people because you know what? They had the courage to speak up. And even though that idea may not have worked, maybe somebody else refined it and then it worked. In the end, it still made everybody good and better. And that's all that really matters. So I don't want to say it's a failure celebration party because that's negative. What I want to say is somebody had the courage to swing and go at it and try to do the best that they can. And even if they didn't, somebody else picked up on it and made them better. But at the end, everybody won.
I love this. This made me feel so good when we were talking about it before, that made me feel like, oh, I don't always have to be perfect because.
No, hell no. You just got to go 3.5 for 10. That's it. I've had great ideas. May have been well-intended and then it only made it to the warning track. It's still an out. But guess what? You're able to give tips to somebody else or they see it or they see, wow, I'm actually getting rewarded and acknowledged because I had the courage to talk and I had the courage to create ideas and I had the courage to have creativity than getting stifled. I think that's where a lot of people and their teammates don't speak up because they feel like they're going to get chastised or stifled. And we're going to be completely opposite.
What is one life lesson you learned the hard way?
Just one?
Just one.
Even if it's by accident, don't carry a gun in your carry-on bag. You will go to jail.
Oh, does everybody know this story?
No.
Yeah.
I know about it.
Yeah. Shall I? Woo. One morning, what happened, Eddie? What happened to you?
In my carry-on bag, I'd put my gun in there when I was cleaning out my car, changing from one car to the next. Didn't think about it. Went to fly and went to jail.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then you came and got me out because that was only February of this year. So, none of us are saints in the room and that just happens. But, perfect example. It was an accident. The police knew it, but it's the law and it's very good that it's there. Crazy as it sounds, it happens 1 out of 3 times a day in Hartsfield in Atlanta. And everybody was very respectful and very kind. But you know what? I could have been like, man, that's not fair. This is bullshit. No, my dumb ass left it in there. You still got to own that. And yeah, it's a mistake, but your intention wasn't bad. That's why the consequences, everything's gotten dropped and I've just had to pay a fine. Why? Because I didn't have bad intentions, but shit happens and you got to sometimes realize that. And it's okay.
And you were so calm on the calls and I was like in the car, oh my God, we got to get Eddie. We got to make sure. Yeah, I think I worried more for you. I think there's a picture you took and you're like, ah, and I'm like.
Yeah. When you were driving me to the airport, because I wound up flying out 7 hours later.
Yeah, I was very nervous.
Yeah, I know. And I was the one that went to jail, but it's all right.
Yeah, I didn't know what it, and at least I care. At least I care. Okay. What advice would you give to someone who wants to excel beyond a 3-5 year time frame to grow in a different area of the company?
Complicated question because I don't know what they want to excel in, where they want to excel at, how they want to excel. That's a very broad. I would just tell you got to put in, because that question's so broad, I'm going to have to give a broad statement, unfortunately. I would just say that they've got to put in the extra time and they got to invest in themselves and they got to learn a little bit more. Because what you can do in this life is you can't beat time, but you can cheat time. The good thing about life is most people, a lot of times, are going to do the bare minimum or just do enough. And if you just put in a little bit extra, and I'm not talking about, you see so many people, it's like, somebody, I laugh when somebody's like, oh, I got to get in shape, and they run 5 miles the first day and then their knees hurt and they don't want to do it again. It would have been better if they ran, half a mile. I think if you break it down, and I once had this talk with my nephew and he didn't listen to me, but he wanted to get better. And I said, well, are you putting in an extra hour to get better every day? Well, what do you mean? It's just that simple. If you think about it, 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, 7 days a week, that's 7 hours, multiply it. Within a 4 or 5 year span, if you put in 2 hours, you're going so far ahead than everybody else just because you're investing in yourself. So you're cheating time. So.
Let me see. There's more questions. There's so many questions for Eddy, so I'm just going to keep going. Do you believe that self-made comes with added vulnerability? Being self-made comes with added vulnerability?
No, I think everybody should be vulnerable. I think self-made is just understanding that you can do something and it's up to you. And really accepting that the only thing we control in life is our mindset. That's all self-made is. So that in itself is vulnerable to admit that everything else has some degree of variable. And I say, well, you can have influence. I'm not saying you can't, but at the end of the day, the only thing you control is your mindset. That's it. So knowing that is actually, to me, quite humbling, because that's something that in my sense is very easy to put a regimen in and stick with and just game plan. I think that's real easy to do. So I think that's a vulnerability in itself, but I don't think it's anything different than anything else. It's nothing special. I'll tell you that much. It's just, you got to do it like Nike, just do it.
What are you most proud about or proud of about EPM?
I'd just say the growth of so many people here. So many people who've gotten here and grown in their personal development. It doesn't matter if they're even in the same role. They're a better parent, they're a better friend, they're a better, aunt, they're better for anything, and that's just now the beginning, because obviously with the new EVP of Learning and Development, more and more opportunity for people to improve, because I do believe we're in the personal development business that happens to do with their mortgages. I think that the opportunity, what we can do for our fellow man and for each other is so great that it's exciting. And that's what I say is just the growth of the people and where they are in their life is truly how they've transcended and transformed is probably the most rewarding.
I feel that personally. So thank you. Thank you for believing in me. Let's see, more questions. So
but you got to understand something. You make a good point. Sorry to cut you off. You believed in yourself first. When you came in here and met with me, problem is you just hadn't had somebody give you a shot.
Right.
That's easy. That's the easy part. Giving a shot is easy. If you understand how to do that, but the only way to do that is to really ask a lot of questions. And I remember when I met with you originally, you're real. You didn't play victim. You didn't play this. I'm not going to say you had a chip on your shoulder in the bad way, but you just had, man, I wish somebody would just give me that shot. That's easy, man. That's easy. That's just if you're a good listener. And the only way to do that is to ask questions, a lot of them, and just take back even some notes.
I'll never forget in the interview I had with you, you threw a pin across the room and I kept eye contact with you and I didn't break. And you were like, that was a test. I wanted to see if I could throw you. And then you looked at the pin. And at that moment, I was like, now look at the pin. What did he throw? And I looked really quickly and I looked back because you looked and I didn't. And it just looked like I didn't. I want to make that clear. I did look at the pin. I am admitting that now. I did look at the pin, but I only did it when you looked. Okay. I'm letting you know now.
Well, so you want to always keep eye contact with people. The tough part is on the Zoom because eye contact is here, but you're here. No. So I'm like trying to balance because I want to make sure I'm looking into the camera, but it's just.
But if you look here, it's like kind of creepy. Like, hey, everybody.
So yeah, it does look a little weird if I look like that. It's a little bit, if I twist and I'm looking at you, it does look a little bit more natural.
Right. Logan wants to know that you've been in a CEO peer group for a little bit. In what ways do you differ from them and what have you taken away from them? But how do you differ from your CEO peer?
how do I differ from them, or how have we improved, or what part do you think?
I think you should answer the first one. How do you differ from them? And because he's asked a two-parter, what have you taken away from your peers, but how do you differ from them?
I mean, the biggest thing they taught me is that culture eats strategy for breakfast, and it does, because it doesn't matter if you have the greatest plays, if people don't buy in and they don't agree in the sense of what's in the best for the vision, even if maybe they think, we could do it a little bit better this way, but let's give it all we got to see what's out there. You know, saying that culture and vision eat strategy for breakfast is 1,000-fold. I can tell you that. How do I differ? I am the only one in the whole group that has a tattoo.
Yeah, wow, interesting.
They actually were shocked. But what's funny is I didn't get it till I was in the group. So I guess when I joined, I was like everybody else, but then I got my tattoo 2.5 years ago.
Huh. What an interesting answer. So this next question, and this is one of my questions. How do you deal with workload, pressure, and work-life balance when it becomes overwhelming, right?
This is some unlearning. Some unlearning.
Yeah.
Work-life balance is bullshit. And what I mean by that is when we all agreed to the iPhone, we were all complicit on narrowing that blurred line. What I just say is you got to balance. It's really work, family, but nobody wants to call it that because then it seems like, oh, you don't care about your work. Oh, all you care about is your family. Life is both. Life's encompassing. So I think that's got to be unlearned because, yeah, you could turn off work or you can turn off family, but you can't turn off life. So work-life balance, I think, is very comical to me, how that's misused and misrepresented. But you just got to know your grooves, and you also got to know what stage you are in your life. There is going to be times in your life, and I've said this, and people nod their heads in disagreement. That's fine. Your work will be more important. I didn't say the importance, your family's importance is not higher, but guess what? If you want to retire younger, if you want to give your family a better career, a better life, if you want to be there and have some fun times, you probably will have to work a little bit longer, harder, and more. It's just what phase are you in? Do you want to be doing that when you're 60 or 70? No, you should be doing that kind of in that prime 35 to 55 range. And it's okay if you miss an event as long as you go back and talk to your kids. You know, I think Bruce Lee said it best. You know, I'm not going to give my kids what I didn't have. I'm going to talk to them about what I never was talked about. And I think that's really the key, because I always say that, you know, we've had some people here, and you know who I'm talking about, that, oh my God, I gotta be every second with my kid. You're not really setting a good example for him. You know, my father worked 6 days a week and I worshiped him. But when he was there, it was impact. And I think some people sit around on a couch and say, I'm there, but then they don't talk to their kids. They don't ask questions. They don't embrace. They don't go in the yard. They don't challenge them. They don't say, hey, who gives a shit what I think? What do you think? They don't do that. So guess what? It doesn't matter if they're around more. They never had that impact. And that's really what people should quit worrying about, the minutes, but worry about the impact that's done.
So quality over quantity. So it's about, if you've got an hour a day to spend with them, then it's about plugging in and making that impact with them versus like, I need more time. Then you're never going to have more time because all you see.
Yeah. And I'll also tell you that if use an example, you have 2 hours with them. It'd be better if you had 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening, than 2 hours in the evening and 2 hours in the morning. You get to hit them both times. You get to hit both times of the day and ask different type of questions of what went on in their day. That actually shows that you're interested, not interesting. I think that's what a lot of people also miss. You got to just, you know, I'm a big fan of regimens for a reason. Well, kind of have to be since I have some ADD, but it's just part of success. It's what I said to somebody, you know, people love winning. They love the result, but winning's actually pretty boring. Go look at anybody that ever won. You know, Usain Bolt trained 20 years for under 2 minutes. All his races didn't even equal 2 minutes. Think about that. Winning is a process. It's boring. It's mundane. It's sticking to it. It's really good for your mental health. It's really good for your self-assurance. It's really good to see yourself daily getting at something, but the end result is usually not that much. Like, yeah. It's, you know, look at football. The average play is like 6 seconds. They train this whole week for maybe being in 40 plays, just 240 seconds, which is 4 minutes. Most of the things in life are those moments, but they prepare for it. That's what I think a lot of people don't realize. You got to prepare maximum.
That's like you told me this morning when you said, don't bring the mediocrity. And I said, I'm not, I'm on my way. And you said, that's the first step in struggling well, right?
Yeah.
Preparation, showing up, getting up and doing the damn thing.
Yep.
So many wonderful things. Thank you. You make me feel so good all the time. All right, more questions that aren't just mine. Are you still offering leadership course? What is the best way to get involved with leadership courses? Reach out to me. And
yeah, reach out to you. There's a lot of things. Plus, we're going to be, when Julian starts on the 13th of September, there's going to be a whole program of a lot of stuff that's going to be going on in so many different ways. We're going to make sure that we clean up some assets and put them all in a certain location, so it's easy. So
back to the beginning, are you going to Six Flags on Sunday? Are you taking a trip to Six Flags? So if anybody's going to Six Flags on Sunday, you will see Eddy and how many kids?
I don't know. He wants me to take a few buddies. This should be interesting.
Just you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please take pictures. I'd like to see some video and pictures, especially you on the roller coasters.
I'd like to see all the wires fixed.
Mark, whoa.
I love roller coasters, so I don't know what you're talking about there.
Can you, so ADD, right? You've been talking about it a little bit more recently. It's a bit serious, right? You call it your superpower. Can you talk a little bit more about this? I think that this would be a really interesting.
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, it's probably a bunch of people here have it to a degree, only because it's very prevalent in type A type personalities. But only reason I even know about it is because my two youngest kids have it, and it's hereditary. So when they tested us, we found out we all have it. But it shows up in many different forms. And I'm actually listening to a book on tape that's actually really, really good, that helps me to understand it better, because I can't be a good father if I don't understand it. That's no different than a leader. You know, if I don't know certain subject matter, I need to know a little bit about it, but it does answer a lot. And what's crazy about it is some people have to get on low dosage medicine. That's okay. Luckily, in that sense, for whatever reason, I thought after my father's death, and why I've been such a proponent of mental health, and I still am, I always will be, I thought my anxiety was based off a little bit of that. But what it was is my ADD was going out of control because of that. So anxiety was just a symptom. It wasn't the root cause. It was just the speed and why I can process information really, really fast. The challenge that a lot of people have with ADD is they don't have a good memory. Tripp and Gracie do, just like me. Mine was almost photographic, so was theirs. So we've naturally been able to overcome some of the hurdles just because of that, but it's still about a groove, and it allows you to hyper focus. It's why they explained to me I loved baseball so much, because in that moment I was completely quiet and so focused. And I think that sometimes people, because I do like to joke and have a good time, when they see me in certain modes and they stop me or they start saying I'm upset, I'm not. I'm just in go mode. And when I'm in go mode, I'm in super focused. I got to get shit done. It's not, being against anybody. It's just, you got to understand the person. That's why I'm a big believer in divulging and being vulnerable. But it's just a neurological situation. I don't want to say condition, because it makes it sound like cancer or something really bad. It's got a lot of superpowers. You have intuition, you naturally care, you can hyper focus. I mean, I don't know if you really want to call that weaknesses outside of it's hard for you to turn off. But then that's really about regimens and all that. It's really about sticking and really understanding it. We're all human. It's one of the things that I love about reading. It actually puts me in a place that I'm thinking and really getting that out. We all have our things. So
you keep saying regimen, right? Like you're like regimen in your life. When I first started, you told me like the best way to succeed is to create a to-do list before you leave, right? For the next day, and to listen. Everything you need to know is in the listen. But what are some of your, what are some of the things that you have regimented out? Like, and what are those? That's a question.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, if you want to look at my alarm, there are certain times that I wake up every day. Not always the same, because I'm a big fan of 7 to 9 hours of sleep. You got to get that for your body. I'm a big fan of certain water intake. supplements, how you eat, what you eat. It's all about every little, I mean, even this, even the oxygen that I put in my water, it's helped my oxygen levels even go up about 1%. That's 1% that my heart doesn't have to work more. And it's just all about giving yourself every little edge. That's what a regimen does. A lot of people think I'm disciplined. I'm not. I will go off the handle if I don't stick to my regimen.
Amen. I'm going to say there's so many questions. I'm sorry, everybody on the call, that I can't get to all your questions. Thank you so much for being engaged. John Crane asks a very interesting question I think you'll like. How do you separate your personal accomplishments from team accomplishments? It can be hard to celebrate your wins when you feel like they couldn't have happened without other people. But how do you separate your personal from your team?
I really don't. Because I really doubt any accomplishment you did 100% by yourself. You always got to acknowledge somebody, or even you got to acknowledge, like I always say, the set of parents that I had that were phenomenal, that gave me such a foundation. I'm not saying you can't set personal goals. I have personal goals I want to hit, but guess what? My trainer is the one holding me there. People in the exec team are rooting me on. So there's no real right answer to that. That's just, it's really whatever is your personal preference. I like to celebrate in teams because it's just more fun. I like having fun. I mean, that's what makes winning so much fun. It's not just the process. It's who you become and who you become it with, and the journey. That's what makes it great. I mean, it's not bad to look in the mirror and have that positive self-talk. I do it every day. Got to have that because that's what keeps you going. That's part of the process.
Do you think your love for teams, maybe you don't like this question. Do you think your love for teams is because you were an only child?
I wouldn't say that I am because we all grew up so close to each other. You know, when you're a kid of immigrants, you grow up with all your cousins, as well as my aunt, who is bipolar and schizophrenic. My cousins had to come in and live with us for years. So I don't know, at any age, by certain birthrights that I was in my world, I had to share clothes and everything else. So
no, you didn't. Yeah.
I will say it was growing up. Now, what I will say is it was growing up with so many cousins and so many family members together, having to pull each other. My father having to help out even my mom's side that he wasn't technically, blood into, and showing that. Yes, I will say, growing up first generation in this country and seeing what was possible, absolutely, that showed me what's possible. So that's why I have it. It doesn't matter. I mean, every war is won with multiple people. Anything is won with a lot of folks at the table.
Right.
So, and it's fun. I mean, I like a good time. I mean, this is a good time. That's why I said I ain't worried about this interview. I don't care what y'all ask.
I really wanted you to come in worried. No, I'm just kidding. What is your biggest aha moment so far?
In life?
Yeah. Biggest.
Oh, wow.
This is from Liz. She wants to know, Lisbeth, she asked, what's your biggest aha moment?
Well, it's not my Guido cousin doing Zumba. I can tell you that much. Oh, God. I'd probably say it's when I was 15 years old, when the gravity of how my father came to this country and stole his rowboat to freedom. And when I asked him, how the hell did you do it? And, he said to me in Spanish, libertad todo, freedom's everything. That was a pretty big aha moment. That was a pretty big, holy crap, when you're oppressed, what you'll do just to be able to get on TV and say, hey, President, F you, and not get in trouble for, kind of lets us, a lot of things we take for granted. That was a big moment that I realized how freedom is everything. Financial freedom, mental freedom, everything is freedom based, and how that's so precious and you can't compromise it. Even if it's a little ugly not to compromise it, the alternative is far worse. And my parents will be more than happy to talk about it.
All right, next question. That's just, I had to take that in for a minute. That was a big one. So thank you, Liz, for asking that question. And thank you everybody who's asked the questions. I'm so grateful for this. So this is a question, I'm just gonna kind of change it because it's a leading question, but I just want to get your answer. How do you think someone can change their mindset?
Reading books. You read to think. You don't read to retain, you read to think. It's through that reading that creativity starts showing itself up and growing.
Do you journal? Do you ever write
Yep.
journal or anything? Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna go back through because I skipped some. How do you, okay, this is from Angie. I love this question, okay? How do you feel about Nike giving employees a week off for mental health? Do you think that's a gimmick or do you think that's helpful? You love Nike.
I do love Nike. I think the challenge with that one is not that it's a gimmick, and I don't want to say that they have it wrong. I just think that you got to visit yourself an hour or two every day. See, the trick is I think 1 week isn't enough. I'm going to tell you that if you break it down simply to 1 hour of mindfulness with yourself, and please don't tell me you don't have enough time. Trust me, we have time. I think if you spend an hour on yourself in a year, that's 365 hours. If you spend 2 hours, and that's one of the things that's funny is you talk about reading. That's one of the things that's talked about by Marcus Aurelius in his book, that there's nowhere safer to be than within your own soul, not your mind, because your mind betrays you, but you're within your own soul where you're having these honest conversations with yourself. That's why you don't feel like you need a vacation or anything. I think if you spend that extra hour or two every day, you won't need a week of mental break, because guess what? You took way more off, but you have to make that time.
I think the code there is need, right?
No, you do need it.
No. You said you won't need a week of vacation. You won't need the vacation if you sit with yourself. And because I remember when you told me this, I felt so this like hit me with so much friction. I was like, I want a freaking vacation though, Eddie. And you were like,
no, there's nothing wrong with a vacation, but what I've never understood is the people that are like, oh my God, I needed to recharge. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you want to recharge, spend an hour or two on yourself every day. You'll always run at the same energy I run at. I'm nothing special. I work on myself at least a couple hours a day, every day.
I hear you in my head. You tell me, that's what I say. You float through my mind. One day I got so overwhelmed and all I heard was you go sit with your soul for an hour. And I was like, okay.
How did that go for you?
It worked. It was so beautiful. I was able to get calm and hear myself and I journaled, right? But
writing's very powerful. Writing, you read to think, you write to get clarity. So that's very powerful. That's some of the best mindful things that you can do besides breathing techniques and stuff like that. But I think that's really part of that mental strengthening, to be honest with you.
EPM ortals. Can we name the EPM culture EPM ortals? Anyway, that's so funny. When you are racing towards the finish line, this is from Remco, are you focused only on getting there, or do you find that it's also important to see how well you compare to the other competitors? Use a German car analogy like he likes.
I think it's okay to measure the competition, but I really do believe you're only competitors within yourself. Don't ever look back. Don't ever look back at somebody else if you're ahead. Don't ever worry about that. I think that's actually part of the reason is this comparison culture. I think it's going to cause a lot of more mental health issues. You got to really realize that the best competitor is yourself 5 years from now if you invest in yourself every day.
And that's sitting with yourself an hour a day, right? Getting
working
real.
out, reading,
yeah.
How you drink water, everything of that nature, how you sleep 7 to 9 hours. But I know we don't have time. Bullshit. Watch Netflix freaking 2-3 hours. Bullshit. But
I know I think about you often when I'm trying not to watch too much TV because I'm like, with Eddie.
And look, dude, I like sports. There's times for it, but don't self-sabotage yourself. That's what I always tell people. That's what most people do. They sabotage themselves, unfortunately.
So Curtis said, we once had a conversation about your journey and you referred to your own journey or yourself in this journey as Eddy 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see is the biggest change within yourself?
Wow, that's a good question. That's a good question.
In you, yeah.
I'd probably say my intentionality. I used to think certain things were unauthentic if I did it intentionally, but then I've unlearned that actually being intentional, being in those moments actually is authentic. I actually unlearned that. I'd probably say that being very intentional with my time and my thoughts, and more importantly, talking to people and trying to lift them up, that it wasn't fake. I bought into that old guard, as I say, of the leadership style that used to exist out there in the world that I don't think matters nowadays. Speaking of it, I think Gary Vee, who I started watching 4 or 5 years ago, is a big proponent that really talks about that I think was very powerful, that helped me understand that.
You have given so many nuggets of wisdom through this. Thank you, Eddy. We have like 5 more minutes. I want to keep people on track. So I'm glad that we extended this to be an hour. So thank you for being so open with us as usual. So John Crane, we talk about like all the changes you've made before, so and all the things that you're doing now. But John wants to know what changes are next for you. What's coming up like for you?
So every 5 years, I used to write myself a letter. This year I did a video about who I want to be. So I can't say in the next year. I do know who I want to be 5 years from now. And I have it in a video that I'll share one day. So
be on the lookout. Stick around.
It's definitely about self-improvement. It's definitely about getting better. It's definitely about getting out there. You know, I definitely don't want to be viewed as intimidating or not open. I do everything I can. And that's part of why those virtual calls with all the teams and everybody else and everything I'm willing to do is so important, because they get to see me like they're seeing me now. This isn't a facade or anything. I am who I am. It's funny. I was actually talking to Callan about it earlier today that, you know, we go to conferences, things like that. And, you know, some people come up to me to talk, and I just don't take myself that way. That's the baseball player in me, because no matter how great you were, you went 3.5 for 10. It goes to show you that's life. So in other words, you know, don't think you're a quarterback that goes 7 for 10. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. I think it's okay. And I think that's good. Not for me. It's good because it's going to help lift other people up.
Yeah. Any last questions? I might have skipped some. I'm sorry, everybody. There was a lot of chat going on today, so I'm so grateful for this. Liz says you are not intimidating. You are confident, and you would say you are self-assured, right? Well, I love this, self-assurance versus confidence.
Mm-hmm. Well, self-assurance is great because everybody can build it, and it is confidence per se, but it's really because the key to confidence is just investing in yourself. You know, when we talk about the 4 core, I always say this, and the execs have heard this, they always are very wound up, as I'll say, about struggle well, and they think that's our challenge. And I always say, if you own unique and show the way, the other 2 will catapult. That's just my belief. They may disagree with me. That's cool. That's the great thing about it. I don't believe just because I'm head shareholder and all that I hold any more value, because I couldn't do all their jobs, and I couldn't do it without all them. And I couldn't do it without everybody on here. So that's good that you're able to have that healthy conflict that's embraced in a very positive way. Because at the end of the day, the only way, once again, to get to growth is to walk through your pain in a good way.
That's so good. Yeah. Any last words you want to say? We've got 3 minutes, but I want to keep it on track. So can you say any last words in 3 minutes?
I don't know. Something just popped up from Nick Tantanella talking about Patrick Reed. I just laughed, and I'll just leave it at that.
How is that my boy? How does that become my boy?
I know that's really Phil's boy, but we'll leave it at that. But what do I have to say?
Actually, can you do a dance for everybody? I'm just kidding. You remember that time you went to that conference and you danced? Did everybody see that? Yeah. You know, can you do it now?
If you want to, send out the video again. I don't care. It was a shitload of fun. I don't mind being a buffoon, to have a lot of fun, because we won. That's all that mattered. But it was a process, like I say. Anything guys, just, go live out your best life. Focus on your mental health, invest in yourselves, make sure you're mental strengthening, be good to yourself. That's all I would tell you. That's, you want to make me happy, work on yourselves, improve yourselves. Because even if you're not here a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, if this time you spent here, you learned something that transformed your life, then I'm living my vow that I made my father on his deathbed to leave the world a better place. So if there's anything I could leave, that's what I'd say. So.
Well, thank you so much, Eddy. I noticed I did it, everybody. I made him get emotional. So
Yeah.
we all did it. So a round of applause.
It's easy
now.
when it's dad, by the way. It's easy
I
when
know.
it's dad. It's easy. And it's easy when it's mom too. I mean, I was very fortunate in this world for those two. I really was. So.
Well, we are very thankful for you, Eddy. Thank you so much for being the leader that you are. And thank you for being on this today.
Oh, no, it was a lot of fun. I now get to step into a one-on-one. So.
Woo. Thank
I'm
you,
glad.
everybody, for joining. We'll see you next week. They're not going to be a mission mentor, but then the week after that will be good. So we'll see you around.
Oh, we're not here next week?
No, because y'all all going to be in a meeting.
Next
Mike.
week? You mean the week after?
Mike said it was next week. We'll talk after this. We'll talk after this.
The week after.
The week, we'll get together
Week
after
after.
this.
I think Mike was a little wrong.
Mike, did you throw off my, like Vanessa, thank you. Get them together, Vanessa.
So,
Mike-
no, all right.
All right, bye, everybody. We'll talk
All
soon.
right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Be well.